Every year, high-needs urban school districts face a brutal math problem: how to allocate severely limited resources across a growing list of academic demands. Look at this split screen. On the left, a steady reduction in enrichment funding. On the right, third-grade English literacy scores stuck in a flatlined trajectory. Language arts instruction under these financial constraints is failing to yield proportional improvements in early childhood reading. Classifying these programs as optional enrichment is a structural miscalculation. It assumes core literacy can be built isolated from the cognitive domains these subjects provide. Neurocognitive research identifies music and world languages as foundational interventions for literacy. This is what we call cognitive infrastructure. It is the underlying biological and sociological scaffolding a student requires before they can successfully process written text. Reading is a composite of auditory, metalinguistic, and cultural subskills. Those critical subskills are frequently built entirely outside the traditional reading block. Empirical data from neurobiology, data from linguistics, and from sociology demonstrates how these specific programs generate measurable returns in reading comprehension. Removing these specific programs strips away the exact cognitive mechanisms that vulnerable students rely on to reverse low literacy rates. Cross-linguistic transfer functions as a cognitive multiplier, allowing a student to leverage the logic of one language to accelerate their mastery of another. This flowchart illustrates what is known as the simple view of reading, mapped alongside data from the South African early grade reading studies. Researchers found that targeting home language decoding transfers across the cognitive engine to boost second language English comprehension. Specifically, oral reading fluency improved by 9% and comprehension grew by 15%. The mechanism driving this is metalinguistic awareness. Bilingual students develop the ability to reflect on language structure, bridging decoding skills from a familiar language directly into English. We see this data reflected in domestic, high-needs urban demographics as well, specifically within the Lakeland Dual Language Program in Baltimore. This data table shows ordinary least squares regression variables from the Lakeland program. Look at the early grades. Dual language students show lower English reading comprehension scores in kindergarten and first grade as they build that dual scaffolding. But track those students into the next year. By second grade, that negative effect disappears. Their scores stabilize, and their Spanish reading comprehension accelerates, pulling their overall literacy profile upward. While monolingual remediation offers short-term comfort, dual language frameworks are the statistically superior delivery system for securing long-term English literacy. Structural awareness of language relies on a biological prerequisite. To successfully decode written words, a student must possess precise phonemic awareness, the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds in speech. The opera hypothesis provides the biological framework for this, explaining how music training directly benefits speech encoding inside the brain. Music training demands higher precision than ordinary speech. This view demonstrates how that demand forces subcortical auditory networks to biologically adapt to complex rhythms. This brain diagram shows those adaptations in action. As overlapping networks for pitch and rhythm light up, they trigger the regions responsible for speech encoding to process a syllable. This high-precision tuning transfers directly to the categorical perception of phonemes required for reading. Empirical data from the ABC Academy Action Research Study on Music Integrated Language Arts proves this biological transfer happens in real classrooms. Students placed in the Music Integrated Language Arts group saw a 15% overall increase in English language arts scores, and a 14% growth in their ability to identify main ideas in text. Eliminating music programs destroys the exact multisensory scaffolding that these developmentally vulnerable students rely on to master phonics. Standard literacy interventions also plateau because they rely on a deficit model. They assume urban students enter the classroom lacking normative skills, requiring correction rather than development. This abstract from Dr. Terry Yosso outlines a rigorous alternative. She introduces the Community Cultural Wealth Framework, an asset-based approach that recognizes the existing cultural capital of minority communities. Recognizing a student's home language or dialect, specifically African American English, activates their existing navigational and familial capital. Implementing dialect awareness and contrastive analysis, where teachers systematically compare African American English and Standard English, improves literacy outcomes by giving students a clear framework to navigate between codes. This sociocultural alignment addresses student anomie, fostering the self-concept necessary for sustained academic focus. Treating a student's cultural and linguistic background as an institutional liability actively suppresses the most potent psychological resource they have for achieving academic success. True, lasting literacy development operates exclusively on a three-tiered integrated infrastructure. This three-tiered pyramid maps that scientific model. At the base, we have sociocultural validation. In the middle, the neuro-auditory precision built by music. And at the top, the cognitive metalinguistic transfer powered by multiple languages. Programs like Lakeland's dual language model validate this structure. They provide vital early phoneme awareness advantages to monolingual English speakers alongside English language learners. These cognitive flexibility advantages are powerful enough to directly ameliorate the negative developmental effects of low socioeconomic status.
To move the trajectory of low-performing districts, these programs must be classified and funded as untouchable cognitive infrastructure.